24 meeting of the Camden election registration is called to order. All members are present with the Harden for Barbara Hahn. There is a form present. Prize for the open. Join me in a silence to honor. Are there any amendments or corrections to the agenda? None. There being no amendments or corrections, the agenda is adopted and presented. Has everyone had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from April 17th?
Yes,
Are there any corrections or amendments to the meeting minutes?
there are none.
There being no corrections or changes, these minutes are approved as written. We'll move on to public comment. Public comments on the agenda items only. Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to financial report, April 2024.
All right, good morning, board members,
Morning.
Good morning.
and you ladies as well. Sorry, didn't mean to leave y'all out. We've got, you can see, I usually like to go straight to the tail end there to see what our fund summary is like, and we're at 57% right now. That doesn't include the payroll for this last election. So that still has to come out as well as for the runoff election. I am still trying to get the computer. Let's see, what line was that? The one that we're way over.
Yeah, 530% over.
Yeah, that one. So, finance is aware of that and working on making some adjustments there for me. But that's it. Any questions about the financials for April?
None.
Yeah, no questions. All right. Thank you, Ms. Shannon. Election supervisor update?
Okay. Elections went overall very smooth. The recent election that we had with the 3 weeks of early voting. You'll see I put on the big screen the election summary report. We recently looked at 2 provisional voters, and that's the only thing that was added since election night. You can see the turnout was just below 19%, which I think Kyle looked up the ranking for the saves.
Yeah, we were like 105th in the state.
Yeah.
150.
Okay.
Yeah, so we beat out some counties, but we definitely could have a better turnout. I've been in talks with Coastal Shopper with Greg Lockhart. Greg, his Coastal Shopper, you probably all recognize that name maybe because you get it in the mail. His subscriber base, and it's not really, he mails to every address, is almost 25,000 that go out. So while it is not the legal organ for the county, we're still required to post in the legal organ. It would be to our advantage, I think, to start putting more items in the Coastal Shopper. So I'm working on that with him. Now, we missed, because of the timing, we did miss the deadline to promote any early voting days that we're going to have, but we can get in. There's an edition going out the week before the election. So we'll be sure to get something into that to remind everyone to go out and vote.
I think it comes out on what, Tuesdays or Wednesdays?
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday.
Okay.
So that gives us at least half the week that people can see it prior to the election on the 18th. So we obviously do have a runoff. We have been working with the state on our ballot and answered a lot of questions from the state and Representative Sains regarding how many Uwakava ballots we had outstanding. and how many provisionals we had outstanding. But certainly you can see from this, only 2 additional were added today that in Glenn County as well, only had possibility of 2 ballots that were going to be counted today. So definitely in a runoff situation, in the process of getting a ballot, we can't do anything as far as logic and accuracy testing on our machines until we have a project from the state. So we're kind of at their mercy at this time. So that has led us to think that June 10th would be our best date for early voting to begin. It gives us enough time with our projection of when we'll have the project and the ballots in to go ahead and start LNA, plus with the running of the legal organ on a Thursday. For the ad and the number of days we need after the ad runs, we would start logic and accuracy testing on June the 4th. So to get all of the machines LNA'd, June 10th is my recommendation for starting early voting. And I'd recommend really just 9 to 5 for early voting Monday through Friday. We can't do a Saturday. I don't think we'll have our stuff ready in time to do a Saturday, and we can never do a Saturday prior to Election Day as an early voting opportunity. And with projected turnout, I think we can handle the crowds and the voters from 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. I think it's the 10th through the 14th. So like to hear anything from you all if you have any questions, concerns about that.
No, yeah,
Right.
there's no way we can start LNA earlier because of the way the timing of the Tribune and Journal comes out on a Thursday. So
Yeah.
that only gives us, 6 days to get LNA done for every machine.
And remember, we have to LNA for advanced voting and we have to LNA for all 11 polls to open on Election Day. So again, back to making sure we're ready to go for June the 18th and June the 17th to deliver equipment that's LNA'd properly. So that's my recommendation, staff's recommendation. Speaking of staff, I do not have Rock with me today. He is out on planned leave, so he'll be back tomorrow. Any questions for me? I think really that's all I had. I wanted to talk to you all about the Coastal Shopper, putting more information out there. We reviewed the 2 provisional ballots. I'm sure we're going to talk about momentarily with the certification, but I am confident that these numbers on the big screen are accurate and wishing that we had a little more turnout. That could have saved us from potentially having this runoff election. And people often say, well, it's just 1 vote. I don't think it'll, matter. Those 1 votes could have made the difference in this not being another runoff that we had to have, another election that we had to have. I believe it was around 20 votes that has caused the runoff that Mr. Saines didn't get to make us just have a confirmed winner. So it's so important for people to go out and make sure they vote. In addition, if you requested a Republican ballot and voted a Republican ballot in the primary, you're welcome to vote in the runoff. If you requested or voted a Democrat, if you voted a Democratic ballot in the runoff, you will not be able to vote in the primary. You won't be able to vote in the runoff. If you requested a nonpartisan ballot, you can vote in the runoff. And if you requested a ballot but didn't vote, then you can also vote in the runoff.
And if you didn't vote.
And if you didn't vote, you can vote in the runoff. So those are some of the key areas. We can still target more people, those that didn't show up to vote. And I think that's probably what we would need to do. But hopefully that is what will help us with the Coastal Shopper and some other avenues that we're looking at to get the word out to go vote. But I think that's all I have.
Okay. So I know I was at the annex on the last day of early voting, and we were open from 5 to 6. We had a total of 16 voters for between 5 and 6 on the last day of early voting.
And
Saturday voting was abysmal at both Saturdays. We had
Yeah.
like 68 and 86 voters.
But I think it's important to note that on the last Friday of early voting, and this is always the case, there were more than twice the number of people that voted that Friday than had voted any day during early voting. I mean, people wait to the last minute. That is no joke. And we had well over 250 voters, I think, that voted.
386.
386, I'm sorry.
386.
So maybe 3 times as many voters as had voted during the 3 weeks prior to that. So it's just crazy how people wait till the last minute,
But didn't wait till the last hour.
but
Yeah.
did not wait till the last hour, just the last day.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
Shannon, I would like to thank you and your staff and your poll workers.
Thank you,
Because I
yes.
think between the 5 of us, we visited multiple precincts each and everything just ran beautifully. And that's a testament to you and your folks getting
Yeah.
everything organized. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss if I did not thank them, and thank you for bringing that up, but we couldn't do what we do without our poll workers. They work hard, they come in extra hours to go over stuff with us, look at their notes. They come in the day before to get equipment that is needed for 5:30 the next morning. They give of their time, and we really couldn't do it without them.
Right.
They've been a tremendous asset, and I hope we can keep the majority of them, and they'll stick around for us through November.
Anything else on?
No.
Moving on to new business, certification of the May 21st, 2024 general primary, nonpartisan general, and City of Camden special election. And I've got a few questions for the election supervisor. Have all legally cast ballots from the May 21st general primary, nonpartisan, and special election, including advanced voting, mail-in absentee and election day, been counted, adjudicated, and tabulated?
Yes, they have.
Were there any UOCAVA or provisional ballots cast?
Yes,
Have all UOCAVA and provisional ballots been adjudicated and tabulated?
yes, they have.
Upon certification, are the May 21st general primary, nonpartisan primary, and special election results ready for transmission to the Secretary of State?
They are.
The chair will entertain a motion to certify the May 21st general primary, nonpartisan primary, and special election. Is there a second?
Yes. So
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The election is certified.
Yay.
All right. Moving on to important upcoming dates. We have a risk limiting audit Thursday and Friday this week, May 30th and 31st, and that starts at 10 a.m.
Yes, upstairs.
Hopefully we'll have the risk limiting audit done on the 30th. But logic and accuracy test begins Tuesday, June 4th. Last day to request an absentee ballot by mail is Friday, June 7th, 2024. So for anyone that wants a absentee ballot, they have to request a absentee ballot for the runoff unless they're on the rollover list. If you checked your absentee ballot or absentee application that you're elderly or disabled, then you'll automatically get a absentee ballot. If you did not, then you still have to request a new ballot. Advanced voting begins June 10th, 2024. Runoff election is June 18th. All polls will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And our next board meeting is Monday, June 24th at 10 a.m. here in the Commissioner Chambers. Additional public comments. We're limiting public comments to 3 minutes. Please state your name. And it can be on any subject. I'll take it.
So I am conveying a public comment from NAACP Camden Branch President Timothy Besant Senior to, and this is addressed to,
Can you your name and address?
My name is Mary Beckman, and I'm standing in for Timothy Besant Senior and representing the NAACP Camden branch. Our postal address is Box 1073, Kingsland, Georgia. Okay, so the figure to the left on this handout is the count of Camden votes by age group in the 2024 primary election. As you can see, there was a skew toward older voters, albeit not so strong as the skew seen in the presidential preference primary in March. How can we evaluate the effect of scheduling early voting only during regular business hours on Camden's working age voters? At the meeting of the Camden Board of Elections and Registration on April 17th, 2024, you suggested that there is little that the board can do to make voting easier for voters who are at work from 8 to 5 p.m. You made this suggestion after presenting data on early voting at different periods of the day during the 2024 primary election. You presented the numbers as raw counts, and you interpreted them as showing no effect. We thank you for asking the Elections Office staff to extract these numbers. The figure to the left is a graphic display of the numbers presented as an average hourly count so that we are not comparing apples and oranges. As you can see, the number of votes during the extended evening hour on each Thursday of early voting was not smaller than the number of votes during the extended morning hour each day. Indeed, on the third Thursday, the number of votes cast in that extended evening hour was as high as the average number of votes per hour during the mandated hours from 9 to 5. And importantly, this was so despite the fact that the extended evening hour was a novelty that voters may not have been aware of in the way that they would be aware of the extended morning hour that the Board of Elections and Registration has regularly scheduled since 2019. We urge you to schedule extended evening hours in the November general election and to continue to monitor the data to see if this helps voters who are not retired, particularly those who work on Saturdays. And at this point, I'd like to transition. I'm speaking for myself, Mary Beckman. I live in Mrs. Stofflitz's district. Thank you for giving us the number of voters in the 1 hour of extended voting that you scheduled as a novelty for the very first time in this county on a Friday. And comparing that to the average count on the other hours during that day, it is indeed less. It was only 16 as compared to 42 per hour during the rest of the day. I think it might be interesting to see what the hours were during the extended morning hours that you scheduled all during the election to again see whether you got more than 16 from 8 a.m. To 9 p.m. And I'm suggesting this because we realize that it costs you to have extended hours. It costs you fatigue, poll worker fatigue. So you might want to think about whether it's better to extend an hour in the morning, which doesn't bring it to before the 8 a.m. start of the working day for most people, or extend it in the evening into an hour past what is often the end of the working day. And I want to remind you also that every time you do something new, it takes a while for it to percolate. And in that context, I want to point out that Catoosa County, to which you compared our turnout in the presidential preference, they posted their early voting hours in January for the entire year.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good morning. Dr. Janet Bradford, 145 Christina Lane, Kingsland, Georgia. This is an impromptu comment in response to the supervisor of elections comment a few moments ago that additional turnout could have made the difference in not having a runoff. I remind the board, you are a nonpartisan board. The office should be an impartial office, and the implication that an additional 20 voters would have avoided the need for a runoff is that those 20 voters would have voted in preference of Mr. Saines, as opposed to either Mr. Cook or Mr. Rayner. So I'm sure it was an inadvertent comment, but I urge you to consider the weight that it carries when someone from this office, either from the supervisor's office or from the board, makes such a statement, because it can be misinterpreted. And again, I'm sure you didn't intend for it to be so, but those other 20 votes could have been for one of the other two candidates, and there still would have been a runoff. So I think that the lesson is turnout was abysmal. And so that's the real issue. So hopefully we can get more than an additional 20 to vote, but just be mindful of the implications of the things that you say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay, if there are no objections, this meeting will adjourn. Since there are no objections, meeting is adjourned.